Most people judge films based upon the entertainment value, and that makes sense because when you're watching a movie, you want it to be enjoyable to watch. However, I would like to look at 3 of my favorite Disney films from an art perspective, meaning do they have a lot of interesting things to look at in the background? Is there artistry in the way that they set up the scene? Is there artistry in the character animation? Does the scene itself make you feel moved on a visual level? So I'm going to give you the top 3 films that I think should be viewed from an artistic angle for anyone that's interested in looking at their Disney films in a different way. Here we go. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is not one of the most enjoyable Disney films for most people. It's kind of lower on the Disney canon, just because it is kind of awkward. It's one of the more serious Disney films, but it also has some cheap attempts at humor, especially with the gargoyles, and a lot of people just are not thrilled with the Hunchback of Notre Dame. However, I do think this is a film that deserves a little bit more attention on an artistic level. Cinematically speaking, there was a lot of effort made to make sure that there were grand just beautiful backgrounds showing Paris and just showing these wonderful cathedrals and things that you would see there, of course, also with Notre Dame. There was also a lot of attention given to shadows and lighting. The different places inside of the church, you would have bright lights and you would have lights coming in through the stained glass. Other places you would have really dark shadows. So there was a lot of attention paid to how light hits objects, which of course is very much what artists are into. Another really great thing about The Hunchback is that particular film has a grand sweeping scale that other films don't necessarily have. They definitely wanted you to experience the entire city as opposed to just little portions where these scenes are made. And certain films that I think are good, such as Cinderella, from 1950, I believe. That film had a lot of shots that are just where Cinderella's hanging out and not really big sweeping images of the town, while in The Hunchback there is a definite effort made by the Disney people to show you all of Paris and what was happening around The Hunchback. So artistically, I think it's a very interesting film to look at. One of the easiest films to talk about from an artistic angle would be Pinocchio. Pinocchio, which was the second film released as a feature by the Disney company, is by far the most lavish of the Disney films. They spent much of their time working on the backgrounds, making sure that there was lots of detail in what was happening in the world around Pinocchio. Just the wood that you see all over the place in the film is done with all kinds of grains to make the wood look realistic. And of course there's also detail. If you look even at the small little nooks and crannies of the screen, you'll see that the background has details such as the work that Geppetto was working on. You could see all the little crevices of these different clocks and things that he was making. Just very, very beautiful detail. Of course, the film is also very cinematic and it's huge in its scope. The whale scene is a fantastic scene and using all kinds of effects that people don't even realize. There are visual special effects and animation, and they did a great job. The film is definitely among the most beautiful films that Disney has ever made and deserves our attention. Some people would be surprised, but I would say Dumbo is number 1 when it comes to artistry. One, they pioneered a new technique using watercolor in the background of the work, and it has a very different feel than the oil paint that is used elsewhere. Also, I think the film does a beautiful way of using character animation to move our hearts. Watching Dumbo with his mother and being pulled away from her is just heartbreaking. At the same time, there is also a lot of great use of dramatic angles from the camera, showing how the character is feeling, peering up when we see Dumbo high up in the sky, or looking down on Dumbo when he is feeling small. It is, I think, the most artistically beautiful film, and it's also one of the most simple films in the Disney canon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you a new perspective on the Disney films, and I hope it makes you just a little bit more art smart. Bye-bye, everybody.